You know, I say it all the time, but I love this league. Sometimes it's because you're all as crazy as I am and willing to make ridiculous trades. Sometimes it's because a team is willing to build for the future and compete and blow it up and still make the playoffs. Sometimes it's because major assets will move four times in a weekend and nobody bats an eye. Um, but this, I mean, come on, guys. Like, I can't even one up this. I'm supposed to be the degenerate trader, and you guys made a 31 piece trade. And not just that, it's a team that I shamed on the podcast last week, and I didn't even know I shamed them. It'd be one thing if it was like, yeah, I really took it in the chin on that podcast, so we're not going to do that. No, we don't even get to take credit. We have to sit here and look at this masterpiece of engineering between these two teams in awe and say, how could we even equal something like that? And it actually means something. Like, I think when I did the math, there's at least 3 or 4 first-round picks of value on each side of the trade, at least. And I'm talking individual players and or picks. I'm not saying like, okay, yeah, if you add up 5/5, it's a fourth, and 3/3, it's a second. Like, no, like, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, I'm speechless. I just don't know what to say here, guys. Somebody save me.
What a shit show.
I know me. Yes, I am a shit show in this one. But,
no, it's so many moves, so many moves that it's just like it's almost impossible to keep track of, and actually have them make sense. So I'm very thrown by a lot of this.
yeah,
It was a fun week.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. But beyond that, that's just the headline. What I mean, major top piece changes hands 2, 3 times. You know what? We're just going to get to the trades first here. We've got Broncos, we've got Panthers, we've got Eagles, we've got Vikings. We're going to talk some trades, and then we're going to talk about a topic that, or at least tease a topic that Eagles suggested last time. It's the top 25 assets in the league, which gets to be a really interesting conversation because you're not going by trade calculators or website ranks at this point. It's trying to combine all these things together. And oh, by the way, we just had a major shift in positional eligibility this offseason. So just to tease the couple of lists we have up there right now, some are the same, but then at least one of the other ones is completely different. Like a player that I think is in the top 3 for 2 lists, I have outside the top 15. So that's like I said, when people have different valuations, part of the fun of the league and why it's good to send a lot of different offers. But we'll get to that. Let's talk trades. So let's see. Last week we podcasted. What did we podcast last week?
Tuesday, I think.
Oh, good. Another gentleman's 21 trades this last week. And, it's just, you know what Saints reminds me of? And I'm giving him too much credit here, so forgive me. But he's a Steph Curry type of trader. He just kind of gets on a roll, and he's going to pour 4 or 5 in a row, and you're just going to be sitting there in awe. And then he's going to disappear for a couple of games. And then you're going to be down 21 to Serbia, and he's going to come in, and he's going to drop 30 points in the second half. And then he's going to, do okay for the first quarter against, France in the gold medal game, and then drop the last 15 points. Like, let's see, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of these trades, I believe. And that was just a quick count. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off as Dick, and we'll start talking about the trades here. But he's in that first one, giving up Jets 26 second for Jacob Cohen from the 49ers. I'm a Niners homer. Did I miss something?
Just preseason hype.
I mean, I don't hate the idea because Chosen Anderson is not going to replace Brandon Ayuk if that trade happens. And Pearsall, while he has shown flashes against air, has had trouble against the jam. So I don't hate the idea of, hey, Cohen could get snaps as that third or fourth receiver, and availability is a very nice ability in this league. So I get it, but I don't get the second yet.
Yeah, might be a little bit much. But yeah, I understand going out and buying your guy.
It's a shot. That's all it is.
The deal with Seahawks too. You got to overpay if you want them.
That's also true.
Oh, don't you worry. We are at least one of us on this pod is very aware of that.
This is that scene in Mean Girls where it's like, which one of you have been brutalized by Regina George, and the entire faculty raises their hand.
Yeah.
Speaking of brutal, you just picked Slayton off the wire, spending way too much money on him, and then you trade him for two pieces that I think you were trying to give away for free or trade for. Why, guys? Why?
Oh, that got reversed. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so Slayton's got a fun lifeline. I've picked him up. He's gone on my taxi. I've dropped him. I've picked him up. He's gone on my taxi. I've dropped him. I've picked him up. He's gone on my taxi. I've traded him. Saints dropped him. I bid him up. The Giants outbid me to where I couldn't buy him. Saints then outbid Giants. And then Saints traded him to me for it to be illegal because I traded it to him in like a couple months ago. And yeah.
Love it.
Someone go buy him. A third team, please go own him so I can try buying him.
Oh gosh.
yep. I mean, now that you said all that, I feel like I kind of have to, but we'll come back to that.
That's too much for a fringe roster guy.
So a good second, one of the best defensive tackle prospects in this draft this year, and a second for Christian Wilkins.
That's a good trade. Yeah, I mean, if you can stomach the $13 million that Christian Wilkins is, that's a good trade for Broncos. That's a good player to have.
I can stomach it. The downside is I gave up my opportunity to basically get a defensive end depth to upgrade my defensive tackle. I will live with it for now and hope I don't regret it.
Yeah, defensive ends are hard to come by. Everyone that I buy dies or decides they're not playing football.
And they all come from me. Buyer beware. Sorry, RJ.
Oh, man. I got a team like that. And, one of my best friends actually is one of my groomsmen, and he is famous for if he is involved in a trade, at least one of those players is going to suffer a serious injury sometime in the next week. And lo and behold, I bought Puka Nacua from him 3 days before he had his camp injury and is out for the next 3 or 4 weeks. So those curses are real, and everyone hold your breath.
Indeed.
All right. I think we chatted a little bit in the channel last week about Easton Stick for a third. I get it. Apparently, that's the handcuff for Herbert. I'll expound on my feelings about going this direction later, but I think Jeremy was more than happy to get a third for Easton Stick.
Yeah.
All right, 3 and a 4 for 3 and a 4. And then this. So this is the thing that drives me nuts. And James, you're gonna have to forgive me because I know I said this to you in the chat channel last week. Before the draft, no one was giving up the 101 for Justin Herbert. Nobody. Everyone knew that 101 was either going to be, or no one's giving up the 102. At best, you could hope for was the 103, but the Giants weren't going to do that either. Like, you were probably getting the 105 for Herbert. So we get the 101. We just broke down to the 101, and we add to it to get Herbert, Easton Stick, and a second. So I'm giving the 102, I think an additional first, and Hendon Hooker for a second and Easton Stick. I don't know. I just can't. Maybe it was the same set of picks, but I can't. I can't, guys. I just can't.
You're not alone.
And look, if I'm wrong, if I've got my math wrong here, by all means, please hold me accountable in chat. Rip me apart. I'm sorry. But I just and I give you credit for trying to adjust, what you have to try and get what you want and break down pieces into players and players into different pieces till you got the right combination. But this was just a tough one. And, dude, Seahawks, I mean, there's getting too cute by half, but come on, man. Like, what else are you trying to add right now? You have mid-depth everywhere. You're going to win your division unless something ridiculous happens, but you keep breaking down elite assets before they can get you out of probably the opening round. Like, what are we doing here? Like, are you just trying to make the playoffs, get your $20 back, and be happy with it, or are you trying to do something here? I don't know. I'll hold further judgment till later. But
he said competitive with picks, right?
Picks don't score points.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anything else we want to add to that? I'm sorry, I ranted again.
No.
Just Pats being Pats at this point.
Basically. Nothing wrong with it, but just never understood. Or typically misunderstood.
I would agree with Mike's stance on it. I think it was kind of unnecessary for both teams. But it did have a domino effect. So we'll get on to the other stuff that it made happen.
Well, and the first domino effect was, Pats has a quarterback again, so I guess his first isn't worth it anymore. So Saints breaks it down for what I'd say is probably 3 seconds worth of players. So probably really relatively fair. And Woods did get some targets in the preseason game here, so this could be a nice little ad for the Bills.
Yeah, it could. Don't know that it is. I'm sure.
I
think
like all the players that Bills gave up, but I can't say I'm a huge fan of what he got in return.
I think the issue is we want to see Bills do more. Because if this is all he does and he wastes the value of a TJ Watt and a Max Crosby and some of these other guys, he just sold these 3 offensive players. He's not competing now. He's lost to the Jets. So he might as well go full rebuild at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
Barring luck or somehow me ending up with the picks, he's not going to get these picks back at a fair value. So, yeah, he's not. I don't think he can catch the Jets. He's going to have trouble competing for the wild card, but he's in no position to try and actually get those picks back. So, kind of like the sunk cost idea last time. It's hey, you got the value you got for the picks. Does he just move forward and say, well, I converted my pick to that value? I got what I feel is the 103 or the 105 for it. It, it's actually worth the 103. So the person who traded it for me got fair value for it. So, hooray. But to get it back, he's going to be paying his
Bills.
leg and maybe
Bills has his first.
Yeah.
Bills has his first. So he doesn't have his second, third, fourth, or fifth, but he has his first this year and his entire draft next year.
Oh, I thought you were talking Pat. Sorry.
No, Bills, because I don't see him competing at all now. Like that 3-for-1 offense, like, is it good value? Is it fair value? Yes and yes, but he's not going to be able to find another person that will give him that kind of offense back for that one pick.
No, agreed. And that's what he said after he made the deal was, hopefully this will help me hate my team enough to rebuild, but I'll probably just spend the picks on competing or something like that. So more power to him. All right. Back-to-back RJ trades here. So giving up his first in 26, and then his second for Jerome Ford, and then his second quarterback in this year for Texans 25 first and the Panthers 26 third. And Ogbanya, I will never say his name correctly. RJ, I feel like you could have done better. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, it's a first and 2/3 for Deshaun, right? And Texans is a mid-range expectancy. I mean,
I only gave up my 25 first for Deshaun.
Yeah, I mean, plus you had like a huge dearth of D-end issues, so you kind of needed one. But
Well, I think it's a good sell before the collapse. Like if Deshaun Watson comes back and he's good, congratulations. It's been 3 years since he's been good. More than likely he's going to be bad. Might not even be worth the second next year. So take what you can when you can, especially when they're extra. Like he didn't need a second quarterback.
That is the mindset that I had.
That's fair. I mean, with his makeup and the contract that he had, I wouldn't have minded seeing if I could. Obviously, I think it's probably your first preference to try and get more for Kyler and just roll him as, a cheap but, scoring backup, but not backup, but, quarterback option and fill out everywhere else. But if that's not available, sometimes you just got to take what's on the table.
It was somewhat available at the same time, but we're not in the right time period for me to be trying to get, let's say I end up with 3 firsts for Kyler. What am I going to do with the first? And like, how many premium assets am I going to buy with that? Like, if I was the person that if I traded Kyler for something similar to like what Pats gave up, what am I going to buy with that? Like, sure, I have 1 first, and I'm sure I can get something decent for that first, but I'm not finding 3 trade partners to give me 3 premium assets at the price of a first, like with each of them.
The other thing that scares me is I think the Browns have the best backup quarterback room I think I've ever seen. You got Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley. Okay. You got Jameis Eaton W's Winston. And you got DTR. So I know he's getting the money, this, that, and the other. If he goes out there and doesn't perform this year, I think they're just going to admit they pooped the bed and deal with it.
I would love to see Jameis run that offense.
Jameis is getting cut.
Like he just did a knick-knack paddywhack press conference, and it was the best thing I've seen since eating the W's.
Man, I'm gonna be honest. Jameis is like one of the biggest what ifs. Like if he actually went somewhere with a good QB coach and coordinator to where they could have trained and developed them, like straight out of college. Because he made some throws his first couple years with the Bucks, and honestly, to this day, it's like I don't could make that throw, other than maybe Milton now,
And
to where it's like they're not accurate, they're not consistent. They make some of these wow throws that are just crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, and people love playing with him apparently. So, I don't know. He should get another shot somewhere, but I thought that was going to happen this year too.
I think he's cool with making a few $1 million a year and just being like a team guy that everybody likes or likes having around.
Yep,
Oh yeah.
that's
It's
why he
not a
goes.
bad life.
Yeah,
I mean, Jameis grew up in a really, really poor area. Like, I remember watching a thing of him going into, like, his childhood home that he lived until he was, like, 13, 14. They literally had a dirt floor. Like, it doesn't get much worse than that. He's very happy where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great story, and he's been entertaining, and I hope for nothing but the best for the man. But it's time for him to begin his next career, and whether that's a positional coach, if he wants to put in the work because he thinks he's going to be a good team guy and a personality and a motivator, he can kind of grow that way, or more than likely it's going to be in the commentating booth. I think he can get a job as a color commentator right now on any of the top networks, ESPN, or even Barstool probably would just jump at having him on a podcast and let him kind of build from there. So I think he shouldn't make this roster, and when that happens, it's time to move that next career and again keep building that generational wealth and keep making sure your family stays off that dirt floor.
I want to see him with Cam Newton on a pod.
Ooh.
Man,
I think those two personalities would just be so much fun.
look, let's just skip all the formality and have them remake the Walter Matthau and John Lennon classic Odd Couple with Jameis Winston and Cam Newton and release it directly to Netflix.
Huh.
Hilarity will ensue.
That'd be great.
All right, Saints is back at it again, ripping off 4 in a row here. Bud Dupree for Jonathan Jones and a fourth. A D end for a fourth and a corner. Granted, Jones is quite good, but yeah, Dupree feels like his best years are behind him. But
Yeah.
I guess
It's a solid deal.
player. Talented, relatively cheap, and relatively cheap to acquire.
He's also edged 3 or 4 there because you got Thule in there as well.
Yeah, it's weird with so like he's probably worth that. He's probably worth a little bit more. But there's a lot of guys like even in our league that you could talk the owner into selling them for let's call it a third, like a fourth and a quality player at like a less premium position. So roughly that value. There's a handful of them. I mean, I'd imagine somebody could convince Panthers to sell one of his many fringe defensive ends that I'd probably value around the same. So like good deal, but it's just more of a like that's the player he wanted.
True. And you know what you don't want? You don't want your star running back to leave practice with a leg injury today. So, that's less fun. So, hey, maybe I'm speaking about the Texans first. Maybe it was a nice thing to add. Speaking of nice things to add, Joe Milton had a nice game. So, I sold him for Zion McCollum and a future third. Some, based off the game, may say that was silly. But I was considering letting him be lost to a taxi claim last week, I'm okay getting a third for him.
yeah, I think that's totally fine.
And then
Yeah, we've seen a lot worse stabs at quarterback too, so it's good all around for me.
Yep. Pats moving Solomon Byrd in 2 seconds for Chris Braswell. Braswell moves again. He's eventually going to get to the Panthers. I feel like he just has to.
Yeah, not with Pats anymore.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't have never traded him in the first place. I thought I could be able to buy him back at some point, but
He'll find his way home.
He's a moving target, so he's going to end up everywhere at some point. All right.
And watch
one
him bust. So it won't
one more
matter.
major ones. One more major one, and then it's time for the big one. So Herbert and Stick combined for Thule, the Colts 25 first, and the Eagles 26 first.
2 1s and a 2-ish, and like a high to mid 2 for Thule. That feels light for Justin.
So this goes back to Colts was emphatic that there is no way, not no way. He's not going to guarantee it or put restrictions on trades like that for it. But he was emphatic that there was no path in which he competes for a playoff spot,
Right.
or at least isn't a top 12 or top 10 pick next year. Just no chance. Just suggesting it makes you drop IQ points.
Well,
So he traded that pick, Eagles 26 first, and a second he kind of had a player that I think all of us have kind of a second round value on for what he just traded 3 firsts for.
Wheeling and dealing.
well,
Yeah, Colts has no picks now, though. His future is all in other people's hands. I don't get me wrong; he's got Herbert and Marvin, so he's got plenty he can break down. But
he's got a fine team for the future. Just not this year.
Eventually, he'll be good.
Like maybe one day Brendan Rice will show off and they'll be worth something. But yeah, this is interesting move. But you know what? I guess if you want your quarterback, you got to get your quarterback.
Yep.
All right. I've taken a few sips of a drink here, taken a few deep breaths.
Go ahead and read that one.
So this will be the longest soliloquy I've had in podcast history. So I thank you all for paying attention, and we'll try and keep this as brief as possible. The Saints give up J.J. McCarthy, Tyler Algier, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Tolbert, Will Dissly, Solomon Thomas, Cameron Jordan, Landon Roberts, Pete Werner, Jonathan Jones, Donovan Wilson, for Desmond Ritter, Jermichael Hasty, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Robert Tonyan, Daquan Jones, Grover Stewart, Tavondre Sweat, Robert Beal, Austin Bryant, DeMarco Jackson, Kella Witherspoon, Terrell Edmonds, the Cowboys 25 first, the 49ers 25 first, the Titans 25 second, the Commanders 25 third, the Broncos 26 first, the Bengals 26 first, the Broncos 26 second, and the Bengals 26 second.
I feel like you missed something.
Yeah.
What about the next one?
what are we on?
Final piece. Oh man, that's so much for JJ.
Mm-hmm. Like, Tyler's worth a decent amount. But
This feels like it was a purchase of JJ, Tyler, and Pete Werner.
and Jalen McMillan.
And Jalen Tolbert too, because if he actually starts in Dallas, he can be extended right now for nothing.
Yeah. I'm not as high as on that Jalen right now.
So what are we thinking? JJ 2 1s, and then a second grade on what Algier and McMillan, and then what, a second or a first on Warner.
I mean,
So when I laid all this out, and I said this pre-pod, I think Rams probably moved an extra second more than he had to, which, considering all the pieces in the move, works for me. I just don't know the team he's building right now. Like there was a time this summer where I know he wanted to try and compete to three-peat the division or four-peat the division, whatever it was. Nobody's done it, so he wanted to do it. So I get it. That's a fun idea, a great idea. These are not the pieces to get you there. These are pieces that are helpful in that kind of situation, but now you have three major holes still to fill and very little to do it with. And the pieces that are most valuable to you are either, and I think this. You know what? I'll leave that for you, James. That was your observation. I don't need to steal it from you. I'll turn it over to you for your observation on this one.
Yeah, we were talking pre-pod, and the big way I boiled it down is, it's 4 first, 3 seconds. And really, when we look back on this in 3 years, it's going to come down to JJ. If JJ hits, everyone's going to go, oh, it was okay. If JJ misses, it's going to be just abysmal.
That's fair. Just is the amount of pieces involved longer than the picks list that the Dolphins has?
No.
No?
I don't think so. I think Dolphins has more picks.
That is staggering.
Well, there is a positive for Rams. No matter what outcome, he does own his first rounder this year and next year. So if JJ doesn't play, he ends up with a top pick. Most of the players he bought in this that are offensive are young, to where he could, potentially fill one of those holes with his own first round pick and probably be somewhat competitive. It's just going to be hard with the Seahawks and how well he's done since he's joined that division. Like, it has been 3 or 4 years of pretty stagnation in that division, and then with Seahawks coming in, actually giving Rams some competition, it's getting kind of ugly.
All right. I've officially caught my breath. Look, I mean, I think this is a great trade for Saints. He breaks down JJ and a bunch of pieces that he was going to have to either dump at some point or attach an asset to dump, or people weren't probably chasing hard enough to get them in the first place. Like Algier, McMillan, Tolbert, Warner are helpful pieces to a team trying to compete. Disley should score some points at tight end. Thomas is a great story. Warner, solid linebacker. Roberts, solid linebacker. Wilson, solid safety. So he's adding points. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a kind of race to the middle, or do you think he's waiting to make the move to fill everything else out?
No, I think this is Rams saying that he's not just going to hand the division to the Seahawks. However futile it may be, I think this is him saying, I'm not just going to go down. Maybe out of boredom, maybe because he really feels like he has a chance to do it. I don't know. But that's how I look at this one.
All right. So, you know what? I misspoke. The trade that evens everything out, DeMarco Jackson for free from the Saints to the Rams. Now we're even.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder why it was separate. I don't know if it was a taxi claim or if it was
It's an illegal piece of the trade that had to be reversed.
Oh. I knew that somebody would find a piece that wasn't supposed to be there.
All right. And then I don't get this one. Disley a third and a fourth for Wiley a fourth and a fifth.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Dolphins buying points?
It's Rams buying points. Wiley's competing with Chiggy for the starting role.
I mean, maybe, but I feel like Disley has more points in him this year than Wiley does. But I mean, either way, it's just a weird one.
Yeah, I'm thinking the ads on the other side, but I get it. All right, Ritter gets dumped to the Eagles, so you've now got your handcuff without paying anything for him. So good for you, RJ.
Woohoo!
Saints given a 4th to get Disley and a 5th from the Dolphins. So Disley's part of this major package with the Rams. Rams pays up with Disley to get Wiley, and then Dolphins trade what they've got for a 4th.
Yeah, Saints got rid of Disley in a previous trade and wanted him back. So when he made his way to Dolphins, and Dolphins had no use for him, I'd imagine Saints tried to buy him back.
I think that just has to do with the unknown tight end room.
Mhm.
Like if Disley is the number 1 and he goes out there week 1 or week 2 and, puts up 10, 15 points, who knows what he might be able to get. That might become a 3rd for him. Who knows?
Yeah, it's Disley and Hurst, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they got Arnhem is still there. Been there forever. A giant dude.
Mhm.
All right. Braylon Trice for Von Miller and a 3rd. Bears throwing a guy on taxi, so reasonable trade. And then I give up Broncos 25 first for the Titans 25 3rd and the Eagles 26 first. I don't care. I'm rebuilding. I traded first for a first to pick the 3rd in the process. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, you pushed it back a year, but that's totally fine.
All right. So we're not going to go all the way through our lists here. But on the rankings tab that is on the league homepage, you'll see most valuable players preseason. Now, the way we thought about this, I think, was wildly different, which is great because it's led to absolutely different top 25s here. We're going to pick out a couple of names that I'll say are divisive based off of where they're ranked in each person's list. And we'll talk about that, and we'll use that to tease our deeper dive on this next week. Because right now we only have 4 lists filled out. And that's fun, but that's not as much fun as if we had 8 lists filled out. And some kind of cool ranking system to the side to say what the aggregate ranking is and a standard deviation or something like that. Lions, Giants, somebody.
Lions.
But I think first and foremost, Eagles, you're kidding with Joshua Grenard, right?
Jonathan Grenard?
Yeah.
No. $2.5 million defensive end that averages how many points per game? 14 points per game, and is price controlled.
I mean, he's my number 10. 2 is a little high in my opinion, but I see the value.
Yeah, he's the 2nd most valuable player in the league. Weirdly enough, Packers has the 2 most valuable players. In my
What
opinion.
are you asking Jeremy to do? This feels like you might be trying to bribe the commish. All right. I disagree, but we'll continue. So he's number 3 on my list. I don't think he's listed on Panthers' list. He's number 23 on Eagles' list, and he's number 21 on Broncos' list. So I seem to be the only person in the league that, despite the contract, still thinks Patrick Mahomes is a top 3 asset.
He's not even the most valuable quarterback contract.
Yeah, you already said it. It's the contract. It's 5 years, $39 million. No, thank you.
I mean, he's going to play. He's going to produce. Nobody's doubting the talent. But yeah, the contract is not even the best QB contract, and he doesn't score a different amount of points enough to where it's worth being a top 10 or top 5 in this situation.
I'd argue at 5 years, it's actually more of a pain in the ass with like that contract. Trust me, I have a lot of guys that are on 5-year deals. I don't enjoy them.
My big thing is with all those top end quarterbacks that are getting paid like that is what's really the value difference between them.
Right.
Like any given week, one can score 5 points more than the other. You know, at the end of a season, one might have ended up doing that a little bit more consistent than the other. The only real difference between the Mahomes, the Allens, you know, all of our average, normal, top, high-end scores is just what week did they go off and how much are they getting paid. The thing I think will help level all that out is the amount of quarterbacks that we have that are about to, you know, get paid and are going to have to come off fifth-year options and are going to have to get paid a lot more money than some of the guys we have. Like Trevor Lawrence is due to get paid like $40 million with his extension, and we've got a bunch of other guys coming beyond that will also be getting paid that kind of money, which will make the Mahomes contracts, the Allen contracts look better. It's just there's too many guys right now that are, you know, a fraction of the price that produce similarly week to week.
Here's my problem. Panthers, you're saying you wouldn't trade Chris Godwin for Patrick Mahomes in this league.
So, like I said, my list is not in order. I'd just put names.
Well, that doesn't.
RJ, you're saying Danielle Hunter is not worth Mahomes.
No way. And no way could I rationalize trading Danielle Hunter for having to pay Mahomes $40 million. No.
Okay.
I mean, he's worth it, but you know, we have found over the years, no matter what the salary cap is, those large quarterback contracts are just not easy to work around.
Yeah, somebody go send that offer to Bengals and see what he says about that. Any of the top tier quarterbacks.
Who does Bengals have?
Hunter.
Oh. I don't know. I mean, I understand like the value of having the. Here's the thing with Mahomes that the other guys don't have. Like, Mahomes is going to play that 5 years, and he's going to play at a high level. Geno, Jared Goff, you know, Tyler, whoever else you have listed there as like a better contract, better quarterback situation, a value. There's no guarantee that they're going to play 5 years.
I'd take Kyler and Kyler out of that, and I think Goff is already established. But I understand what you're trying to say.
I mean, like if you had all three of them on 5-year deals, who would you feel the safest with playing all 5 years? Mahomes.
All three of them.
You still got to rank them. Like, and that's my point.
Whoever's the cheapest.
Well, okay. I was taking salaries out of it. I was just talking about like actual play.
Nope. We have to factor in that's not this league. This league has salaries involved.
I was just making an argument.
Give me the guy that's half the price.
So 2 years ago, the salary cap went up by $14 million. This last year, the salary cap has gone up by $26 million. And the NFL is just signed, another huge media deal where now more stuff's going to be on Peacock, Amazon, and all these other channels than it was before, adding more money to the pot in the league and potentially adding another week of games.
Yeah, but they also have a looming lawsuit that they have to pay out potentially. They keep like dealing with money issues, and not to say that they're going to have that issue, but we never know. I mean, the cap's going to have to go up if they go to 18 games. to afford more players so they can actually get through a season.
All right. So as long as the cap change is greater than back of the napkin math here, 8 million, just based off the last 3 cap changes you pay for Patrick Mahomes. So I understand trying to build a team based off these contracts is a fool's errand. I have certain players down lower than I would otherwise because of their contracts. But I think we might be trying to be a little too cute by half with some of this and saying, oh, I like this guy. He's number one in his position. He's 24 years old. He's really good. But he's not in my top 20 because he's, $30 million receiver here. Like, you guys are making it too hard on yourselves.
Well, my list, for what it's worth, is based entirely off of contract value.
I figured it had to be.
All of those contracts are amazing, though.
Yeah, like
except for Stafford. He's too old. I wouldn't put him on that. He's a great contract, but
he's sub $10 million.
Yeah, but for what, a year?
It's still easy. I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like,
and your safety, like,
oh yeah,
get out of there. We don't value safeties. Come on.
That starting safety for a 5th round rookie pick value, yes, that will be absolutely on this list.
He's going to be a nickel back, and at some point they're going to change him to a corner.
Then so be it. But for right now, he's still a starting safety for less than $500,000.
Wow. Yeah. More people add to this. Let us know whether, I'm just underreacting to contracts or other people are overreacting to other stuff because, this is fun because it's such a wide variety of stuff all over the place. I think just the one more that jumps off and then we'll move on to the fun part.
I know the 3 of you did this, and I did not. I don't think rookie contracts should be part of the list as far as like value of salary goes. Just personally, I think that the value comes in the players. We don't have to worry about 5th-year options or not holdout extensions, but like renegotiation extensions just because they get to their final year. I think that it makes more sense to have guys that are already off of that.
That's the thing. Like, whatever your window is, 3 years, 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, you got to have a window. For me, 3 years is kind of how I look at that. And certain rookie contracts are going to be an incredible value in those 3 years and well exceed any veteran contract.
Mm-hmm.
So
I understand. Like, I don't doubt. Like, Brees is obviously valuable. Bijan is obviously valuable, but like when they get extended, they're going to be like what, $25, $30 million by that point in time. Guys like JJ who got real lucky with their extension.
But Bijan doesn't make that money in the next 3 years.
Right.
So again, to put it in perspective, you're planning for draft picks we don't have yet.
Well,
that's my only objection. But again, I don't fault the approach because, if you're looking at actually winning, veteran players are a lot more helpful and usually score a lot more points. So, so that reflects that is definitely helpful to the teams that are making those kind of targets. So yeah, we've got 4 teams. I think we can get it up to 8. But if we get it up to 8, we'll jump back on at least in the channel later on in the week and have some fun. But I think we can do something with this. Any closing thoughts before we move on here to the trade, back to the trade part of the conversation?
No.
Lions, I look forward to your work on breaking down the lists.
That would be excellent. Whoever is willing and or able, that work would be wonderful. But anyways, you guys are wonderful, and my co-hosts are wonderful, and trades are wonderful, and a full weekend of football was wonderful. It's good to be back. It's going to be a fun stretch between now and February. Everybody enjoy.